What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. What's going on over there? Ooh, those are the bad ones, right? Gosh. Oh, maybe that'll hold. Alright. Raptors. Dangerous stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to stay inside, record a podcast. A lot safer than being out there. Dinosaurs and everything. But enjoy the show. It's Jurassic Park. See ya.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the SuperCaZt. I'm your host, the man in SuperCaZt, the Super Coach, and with me as always is my good buddy and Steve, the man with the Z in SuperCaZt.
Hi guys, dressed like my new hero in Malcolm, Dr. In Malcolm.
And if you didn't already know, we are talking about the classic, the movie that started the whole franchise off, Jurassic Park. And before we get into that, guys, we do want to ask you, if you love what you see here, and we hope that you do, we hope that you will like our video, comment, let us know what you like about Jurassic Park, and join us here on the SuperCaZt family. Talk about Blockbuster, you talk about Star Wars, you talk about many movies. This is a blockbuster film. Wouldn't you agree, pal?
Totally agree. I remember the summer it came out, 1993.
Yeah.
This was the only movie, pretty much, that I know of.
Pretty much.
Because I remember it came out in, like, June, and it was in the theater until, like, September. It just wouldn't leave. I mean, where we grew up, there was only 3 screens, and it was on one of those screens for, like, 4 months solid. So this movie was huge. It blew my mind the first time I ever watched it. It like nothing I'd ever seen before. And it was like almost like a life-changing film experience, if you will. I wanted to be a paleontologist after watching this film because I went crazy to dinosaurs. I read about them all the time, and this movie became a movie that I just played to death on VHS. But so that's what it was for me then, and the whole merchandise bonanza was there. It was just a big time thing. Everybody in the class went and watched it. Everybody I knew had seen this film. Yeah, so it was really cool. It
was insane. It, of course, started off as a book by Michael Crichton. Did you ever read the book by chance? Have you ever read?
I never got around to it.
Okay. Well, I believe it was Michael Crichton that wrote the book, and then it became, like you said, this huge mammoth, well now, I guess, franchise, because it's ballooned into several films since then. But this one in particular, I think, is because, as you said, it just blew up. You know, the technology, the story, of course the dinosaurs, the stars of the show, but also, you know, the movie itself was a good movie. And I feel like the original Jurassic Park has held up all these years. It was interesting watching this, getting prepared for this episode, how much of this film I'd kind of like passed over, I guess, a little bit, especially the adult interactions. But this is a really interesting film. I think it's a very good film. Like I said, I feel like it's held up, and it was still an exciting watch, and I still had a lot of fun watching it. What was your experience, you know, all these years later after fanboying originally, man?
Yeah, so I did fanboy over it a long time, but
he did.
If you saw the recent Physical Properties episode where I talked about this movie, I kind of lost favor with me. I basically did not buy it again since VHS. I didn't watch this movie for over 20 years probably until last year when we watched it for a video that we made, or actually an episode we recorded. But this time on 4K, oh my gosh. This thing blew my mind, and it kind of brings me back to the old days yet again, get nostalgic a little bit. But I remember going over to people's houses, and they want to show off their TV, they want to show off their sound system. What do? They put in this movie on the T-Rex scene, and it just will blow your mind. And that's kind of what I got when I watched this the other night. I was just on the floor almost, feeling just like I'm watching something for the first time again. And that's kind of what I felt like. I felt like I was 8 years old in the theater watching this with my family and just going back to those times. And I, like you, I got a deeper appreciation for it. There's some stuff that I noticed more, but also some stuff that was kind of glaring. That I was like, how did I not notice this so many times? But also, in addition to that, just a greater appreciation for the craftsmanship, the work that went into this. It's a very unique film, a very cool film. And I guess starting off, we got to talk about the man himself, Steven Spielberg. So where do you think this fits in like his whole filmography?
Ooh, that's a good question, and one I cannot wait to hear your answer for. But as for me, I don't know that this is his best work. I'm not saying it's bad. Let me take that. I mean, putting everything in perspective here, the mid-90s, technology and everything, I'm not saying this movie is bad at all, but I don't know if this is his best work. If you're like, is this his best work? I don't know about that. I don't know. Like I said, I'd love to hear your answer in a minute, but I do think that this film holds up very, very well. I told you that the other day when we were watching, preparing for it. It's hard to believe that this movie is as old as it is. Then again, it's hard to believe we're as old as we are. So, there's that. But I really think that this film is a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of fun. I think there's a little bit of everything for everybody. I mean, we watched it as kids, and I think probably watched a different film than our parents did, and then now that we do. Wouldn't you agree with that? So, but what about you, man? Coming back to this film, like, how long did it take you to just get really excited to watch? Like, was it right at the beginning? Because it's a pretty exciting beginning, and I really think that this film begins exactly how it should.
Yeah, it definitely starts off on a very harrowing note with that whole scene. It gets really dark for a Spielberg film right off the bat.
It does, yeah.
And that's something I wish he would have rolled more as the film went on. Because I really like that vibe at the beginning, but it does set up this sort of suspense of this fear of the unknown. Because once again, he uses very good director mindset. He did the same thing with Jaws. Don't show off the creature too early. Don't do it here. He says he took that from none other than Godzilla. He said he loved that movie growing up, and he was like, I'm going to keep that in there. But this opening scene, it's. I mean, think about it. You see a guy get killed the first minute of the movie.
Exactly.
And you think about what actually is happening to that guy. I'm glad they don't show it. It's a pretty disturbing way to start off. But then from there, answering your question, when do I start feeling excitement in this film? It's when they're in that helicopter, the music's going, they're landing down into Jurassic Park on that helicopter. They're about to get into the Jeeps. That's when I'm feeling it. That's when I was like, yeah, this movie is as good as I remember it being. Because, the first part to me is a little shaky. I don't think it's the best storytelling. I think he is trying to be smart about it, trying not to waste too much time on that stuff. But it's easy to miss certain aspects of these characters early on, such as Nedra. What are his motivations? Also, I was asking the question originally before they got to the whole thing about money. I was like, why did they even go on this trip? Why did these archaeologists, it's kind of weird, these paleontologists would stop their dig and just randomly go. Some of the storytelling aspects, not the best, but once they land, like you said, it's very exciting. It's a ride from then on.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about the music, and I have to mention the music before we go any further, because Mr. John Williams, who if you've watched any movie pretty much in the past 20 years, John Williams has probably had at least some, effect with, but he is, again, maybe not his best at this, maybe not the most memorable as far as like Star Wars or Superman or something like that, but still, I mean, when that theme comes on and everything, it's as good as it gets, folks. So a really, I think, strong start with the horror aspect. So it kind of tells you, okay, this is not going to be, a trip to Disneyland. We're not going to go see Mickey Mouse here in a minute. It may get a little bumpy for some people, and especially for that guy there at the beginning, But yeah, I think it's a very good movie as far as adventure, and it's a lot of fun. What else? What else came to your mind as this movie started, and just kind of get us into it, dude?
Yeah. So, what jumped out to me, because yet again, trying to watch these movies differently as an adult,
right?
And Spielberg, his notorious thing is, or I guess it's not notorious. His signature thing is, it's not just about the plot; it's about the relationships. Yeah. And like he views Indiana Jones' Last Crusade as a father-son story.
Sure.
Yeah, the grill's just there. That's the way he kind of interprets the film.
Sure.
And for this one, to me, it's about relationships, an evolving relationship between Ellie and Alan. So Sam Neill's character, Laura Dern's character. And it's really about Alan in particular becoming mature. I think that's the thing that Spielberg kind of centered on when he was thinking about it, was throwing away sort of your like selfish mentality, thinking about more like family and all of that, because that's kind of what we see in this man. We see the change that happens to him from beginning of the movie, where he's angry at this stupid little kid for interrupting him and questioning about raptors and how they're not that scary. There's giant turkeys or something. He goes from that guy that basically scares this kid into like nearly pooping his pants to like at the end of the movie, he's got the kids draped on his arms. He's riding the helicopter. He's a changed man, and I think that's what should stand out to your film. I mean, stand out to you if you're a Spielberg fan. Is just how does he tell this story of this man changing?
I was going to ask you about, because I'm like, at the beginning, you see this kid just come out of nowhere, basically, and you're just like, okay, there's just a kid here, and I get that it's setting up for the end of the film. I get that now, but it's just such a, out of the blue kind of thing. Do you feel like we give people like Spielberg a pass for stuff like that because they pay it off, eventually, or should we? That was something, and I'm glad that you mentioned that kid, because I don't know if I'd have thought about that again, but I did make a mental note watching this. So I wanted to ask you specifically, Mr. Fanboy here of this movie back in the day, what do you think about that, man? About that, especially about that part in particular, where this kid just comes out of nowhere, and yes, ultimately serves a purpose, but it just kind of seems...
Yeah, and I actually noticed... Not this part, but later in the film, I exactly got into your complaint here. And are we giving him a pass? So I'll get into that in a second. But as far as your question about the kid, yeah, it did not surprise me as a kid, because I'm a kid. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to be there digging those bones and stuff. It didn't ever strike my mind. Maybe he's like the son of somebody. Maybe he's a elementary school kid that just wandered over to help out of the dig. I don't know. I don't need to know. But it is kind of random that he would be there to work on dinosaur bones and say, well, it sounds like a giant turkey to me. So that maybe the dialogue doesn't make sense. Yeah. Little heavy-handed. But to me, I noticed what you're talking about, this sort of problem that maybe sometimes we give great directors too much of a pass on stuff. There's the dumbest thing that happens toward the end of the film.
By the way, guys,
and it never...
Before you mention another word, spoiler alert, if you guys have never seen Jurassic Park and you're watching this, we're going to spoil the film. Maybe not the entire film, but probably most of it. So, just before you said another word, man. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, they do the dumbest thing toward the end of this film.
Yeah.
And it just drove me crazy this time. And I've never noticed it before. And it happens in the scene.
I know what you're going to say, too.
They're all sitting there.
Yep.
Basically, they're trying to figure out what's our next step. How can we save these people?
Yep.
And they want to try to bring the system back on the line. So the only way to do that is to turn off all the power.
Yeah.
So they're going to do that. As soon as they cut off all the power, after just a little persuasion, just a little discussion, all it takes is John Hammond saying, "People are dying here." And that's all it takes. And then now they're going to flip the switch, and then all of a sudden, he's like, this is Samuel L. Jackson's character, this Ray guy. He's just like, "Oh yeah, it's super simple. I just walk across the compound now. Take me 3 minutes to turn the power back on." And the others are like, "Yeah, let's go bunker down over here and just hide." I'm like, so they didn't think about this before they cut out the power.
Yeah.
Why did they not prepare? Why did they not?
Right.
I'm going to go get a gun, guys, because something might happen, The guy that's been so freaked out about the Raptors the whole movie, the games guy, the guy that said, "Quiet, guys, they're near the Raptor pen." Yeah. The guy that stopped them all talking earlier in the film, he just like, "Oh yeah, it's cool. Let's just shut off the power now." It's still the dumbest thing. And even my hero, Ian Malcolm, has been the voice of reason the whole film, doesn't peek up and say, "Guys, why would we cut off the power now? Why not wait a few more minutes? Let us go get prep first. Let's get a plan instead of just cutting power right now this instant." They don't even talk about 5 minutes. And it's so dumb.
Let me ask you, man. Do you give him the pass? Are you okay with that, ultimately?
Yeah, because it's all sort of a Hitchcock thing. It's all about creating the suspense. The kid climbing down the fence.
Yep.
They're cutting the power now. He's like,
"Yep.
Oh, they're going to cut it back on." They had to set up that moment. So yeah, it's a little stupid. Yeah, they're acting like dumb people. The only way I can rationalize it is they haven't been sleeping. They're all stressed out. Sometimes you make dumb choices in those scenarios.
That's true.
So I'm going to give them a pass. To me, this was more glaring, though, than like some of that stuff they talk about with like Christopher Nolan and Dark Knight or some of the stuff from Skyfall. This was a lot worse as far as stupid plot holes or something.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. So we'll go ahead and give him the pass.
I'm coming up to get you. Lex, I gotta get Tim.
Okay. I'm gonna count to 3. 1, 2.
Yeah.
I want to talk about my hero.
Oh, I love Ian Malcolm, man. I finally get it. I always liked him and everything, but I get it, man. I agree with you. I think Ian Malcolm's the best character in this entire movie. So, I'm not just saying that because you're wearing that jacket. I really am not, guys. We did not plan this. But I was just like, I would take, because here's my thing. And this is probably my only complaint of the film. I feel like Alan Grant was almost like Harrison Ford should have played him. Or he
were going to get him.
Or he was playing a
expensive.
Harrison Ford type character. I mean, even with the Indiana Jones hat. I mean, it's like, come on, man. So I felt like that was a little bit. But Ian Malcolm is, I don't know. Obviously the man's right here, so we're going to let him talk in a minute. But what makes Ian Malcolm, like, for those that maybe not on the Ian Malcolm bandwagon as yourself, my friend, what makes him so awesome?
That's just the word. He's awesome. He just exudes coolness. He is the man.
He's just awesome. Okay,
he should
I like
be
it.
stressed. He should be all that. But to him, life is a joke. It's just all random occurrences. It's just things happening, and that's sort of his thing. Is he's above all this. He's enlightened. But Jeff Goldblum, the performance, he's just off the charts, cool, and off the charts, awesome.
I will defend something a minute though, because I think up until he sees the Brachiosaurus, but I think he's even surprised that John Hammond's got a Brachiosaurus, which I think most people would be, because you're like, they're supposed to be dead. And we haven't seen those in quite a bit. And then there they are, in this world, obviously. So I think that veil does slowly, because he does the whole comment about King Kong, and I love that, by the way. But to see his face, I think he's a bit shocked that Hammond actually did this, and that veil of whatever he's wearing at the beginning of the film kind of slowly comes off. So I think that does kind of slip off a little bit. But yeah, I think he is probably the coolest character, or at least tries to be, in this entire film.
Yeah. And just talking about that scene.
Yeah.
You have to talk about that scene. It
Okay.
is probably one of the best scenes in this film and almost any film from this era.
Sure.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That these effects hold up in this way. That
Definitely.
you can still create wonder, and that's what I get about this experience of Jurassic Park that I don't get in the other films.
Yep.
Is that wonder
Yep.
of when they first see that Brachiosaurus, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is insane!" And the filmmaking here is off the charts because you can feel that, you can see the depth.
Yeah.
You never feel like, "Oh, that's not there. That's just."
Yeah.
That's just some computer generated dinosaur.
Yeah, no,
you know?
it's totally
No.
there. Yeah. I
It
agree.
feels like a breathing dinosaur
Yeah.
that's interacting with an environment that is. You look over there, you see more of them in the water. And the wonder that these actors feel, the excitement they would feel, because these are paleontologists that have dedicated their lives to this craft, and they are seeing something the first time, something that is just implausible, that is not possible to be in their faces, and they are seeing it. So yeah, it would change Malcolm. It would change anybody to see a dinosaur up close, and this film gets that. I think the others just kind of like, oh yeah, there's some dinosaurs over there.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it definitely shows the, like you said, the wonder, because it would be wonderful to see a living, breathing dinosaur even now, because even after seeing all these movies, I think actually seeing a dinosaur would be unbelievable. We can't really, and so to fake it like they do, I think it's really believable. Especially those that aren't seeing anything. That's the hardest acting, especially as the older you get, because you're like, I gotta see something. I gotta react to something. And when there's nothing there, you're just like, oh, okay. I'm a little 5-year-old that's just imagining stuff like I did as a kid. Which I'm sure the kids that were in this didn't have that hard of a time, but the adults especially. But yeah, I still think that the feeling is there, and man, this movie just looks so good. I mean, they have done a really good job of preserving the just the depth, as we mentioned, with the dinosaur to human ratio, and then the sound. I mean, the sound of the dinosaurs, the sound of the music. I mean, there's just so much to talk about with this film, and love.
Yeah, and you're getting into it, and our script, we've just thrown it out. We'll come back to it eventually.
We will,
Yeah, this is a good thing to get into now.
We love this film, guys, so
these effects and the sounds even. Like, you got to realize they're creating these, like, taking animal sounds, combining them together. It's amazing effects work, from the smallest scale to, like, how can I make this ripple whenever the T-Rex is supposed to be stomping? Because obviously there's not a T-Rex outside stomping, so how can I make this water ripple that way? So they have to do the troubleshooting. They have to figure this stuff out. This is great filmmaking, and it's like we said, it was a crossroads as we start moving away from more practical to how can we use CGI and things like that in what we're doing. And to me, I always think about Phil Tippett whenever he first saw the computer animated dinosaurs running. And he had been working on stop motion. He's like one of the most genius stop motion artists ever. Yeah. And he's cut his teeth in the 80s, top of the game. And he sees this and he says, well, I guess my job's over. I think I'm extinct now. Paraphrasing all that. I think they put that in the film, actually. So it's kind of crazy, how groundbreaking this film is and how everything just still stands up today.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and with the addition of the way the movies are made and, remade as far as this movie's concerned, I mean, it's unbelievable. And the look of the film, the sound of the film. Let's kind of get into some other stuff, though. Let's see if we can get back on our script, man, and talk about some stuff here. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, so we kind of touched on it earlier, talking about the sort of the relationships. But I kind of wanted to actually... Yeah. You kind of gave Sam Neill kind of a bad rap earlier. I know
did.
You didn't intend that totally.
Yeah.
But to me, I think he did a pretty good job considering he got hired. I think it was like 4 or 6 weeks before this movie actually started shooting.
Wow.
He was like the cheapest guy they could find, but also fit the part.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I could do it. I think I could pull that part off.
Yeah.
So I think he does a good job. And to me, the best parts of this film is seeing his changes when he's with these kids.
Yep.
And yeah, the kids are annoying. That's
part of it, though.
Territory. That's part of the deal. It's a Spielberg film.
Yep.
You're gonna have some annoying kids.
Yep.
But seeing how he goes from feeling that same annoyance that we feel to, you know what?
Genuinely
care for these kids.
Yeah.
I'm going to protect these kids. I'm going to do anything I can to help these kids.
Yeah.
And just seeing that change in him is really cool.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I was giving Sam a bad rap earlier, but I really do like Sam's growth in this film. I like the character's growth, especially or specifically. From the start of kind of being this, I don't really like kids. I don't really care about kids. I only care about dinosaurs. And he probably still cares about dinosaurs more than kids after this, but at least, kids at least those two kids he cared about enough to, help out, and his growth. And also the relationship, and we talked about a little bit before we started recording with his fiance or his girlfriend, or I don't know, does it really ever say exactly what they are? Are they engaged?
It doesn't really say.
Okay.
I think they're just in a very committed relationship, but they're also colleagues, and I don't know how that started out. It's never really said, so you just make up your story yourself.
It's an interesting relationship. For me it was, anyways, especially on this viewing, because you kind of see a romantic thing, but they're just so awkward with each other. I was wondering, are they talking about being in a relationship? Are they in one? I don't know. But if you say that they're in one, they must be in one. So we're going to go with that and run with that. And I do feel like that their relationship probably grew a little bit too. Obviously it would in a situation like this, I think. But talk about that relationship too. And what do you think of their relationship throughout this film?
Yeah, I think their thing is they're a stale relationship. It seems like they've been together for a while. But you kind of know how it is. Like if parts of your life kind of start to get intersected, you kind of start taking people for granted. And I think that's kind of what happens here is they let their professional life and their personal life kind of took a backseat to their professional life. And because of that, they have lost some of that luster in their relationship, some of that love. And she's thinking, at least the way I read the subtext is, hey, you know what? Some kids can really spice up things. Let's get a little more serious about this. Let's maybe tie the knot for real and have some kids, I think that's kind of she's trying to push him to do at the beginning of the film. But he's just not there. And that's why the only time we really see him kind of spark up a little bit is when Ian Malcolm is trying to make his moves on Dr. Sadler. And he's just kind of like bows up a little bit. He's like, she's taken. Doesn't actually come out and say it, but he definitely enforces that.
For that matter. You're married? Occasionally. I'm always on the lookout for a future ex-Mrs. Malcolm.
By the way, Dr. Sattler, she's not, available, is she?
Why?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You two are, yeah.
Yeah, he feels intruded when Malcolm comes on and starts, and he's making no bones about it. It's funny because it's like you're like, okay, yeah, he's not that bad. No, he's putting some moves there right at the beginning on her, and he's not loving that at all.
No, I mean, if you see a guy just randomly, hey, I just met you, but can we touch hands right now? Let's do this weird experiment where I drop water on your hand.
I'm telling you.
It's just, maybe that works for Ian Malcolm, but most people, they were just kind of like, what are you doing, dude? So it's really cool, that aspect. And I think we've said enough about those kids. I'm going to leave them alone for now.
We're good. Yeah.
I want to talk about Richard Attenborough as John Hammond. So when I'm watching this movie the other day, I don't know how to interpret this character. I'm gonna let me let me hear about your thinking of the performance,
Okay.
but also this character in general. Like, what is he?
Okay, so the only other movie I know him in is Miracle on 34th Street remake, where he plays Santa Claus. So you have John Hammond from Jurassic Park and Santa Claus. And so my thing is, I think that's what he's trying. Excuse me. I think that's what he's trying to play here a little bit. I think he's trying to be sort of a grandfatherly. Well, he is grandfather. They're his grandkids. I don't have a problem with him. I understand this is his thing, and he's trying to get his grandkids to like it, and you know what hits the fan, pretty much. But does that make him a villain or anything like that? I don't think so. I think he's just a man with really bad luck, and probably played with too many sharp toys. If you want to know my opinion on it there. So I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people give him a bad rap, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't know. What about you, man?
I think you got into a little bit as far as what I'm feeling is, yeah, he's not a straight up villain. He's not a bad guy. He's not twirling his mustache or anything.
Yeah.
And I think he generally does exude that warmth for his grandkids, and just when he's promoting his passion, he's saying, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to do this so everybody can come. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I like that. And I feel that in performance.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel bad for a portion of this movie where I'm like, sort of was conflicted. I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this guy. I don't know if he is a good guy. And it's really that one scene he has with Ellie where they're sitting there with all the ice cream in front of him and everything. And he's just seems like he's a con artist. And it seems like, hey, this is, I'm not authentic, that possibly I'm in for just the money or just for the fame, just to see if I can do this thing. And that's what kind of, I think the films kind of get into, is these people playing with science like it's a toy. And we get it with Malcolm. Malcolm comes in, he's like, guys, you can't do this. This is a big theme for the movie. Yeah. Don't do this. This is not where we're supposed to go. So that's where I kind of like, and then a crossroads with this character, because I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to interpret him. I did cheat a little bit, and I listened to this one thing about the making the movie, and that in the book he is evil. In the book, he's just straight up a bad guy. And, but he's just straight I think Spielberg made him a little toned down and more of a good, warm, fatherly grandfather guy, like you're talking about.
I don't believe it. You're meant to come down here and defend me against these characters, and the only one I've got on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer.
Yeah, but one guy that's unmistakably terrible, and that's Dennis Nedra, played by Wayne Knight. Yeah, this guy is despicable. He's pretty terrible. Yeah. Granted, I understand his motivations. I understand why he does what he does. He's just the worst of all kinds, you know.
Does he have to put the whip on the pie though? Because like, somebody's gonna eat that and get sick. It's like, oh man, come on, dude. But no, he is the villain. I think he is. Obviously, he gets his comeuppance. Spoiler alert, like we said, he does not make it throughout the film. He gets it kind of a nasty way too. Poor guy, almost. What do you think about him?
Yeah, he's basically shows you what greed can do. Is this man? He doesn't feel like he's getting treated enough, and maybe Hammond did overwork him. Maybe Hammond didn't give him what he probably deserved for what he could do. But Hammond's just like, hey man, I'm a businessman. That's what I do. Meanwhile, Nedra, he's going to be a businessman too. He's going to sell Park Secrets and all that. And he doesn't care who he hurts with this. He should know, knowing what he knows about the security and all that. Hey, if I turn this off, this is going to happen. If I open this fence, this is going to happen. But he kind of overlooks that. He's just thinking about the money. I don't know why he had to do it on this day at this time while this tour is going on. Once again, this is just a movie. But I think he definitely does get his comeuppance, and it's one of the better scenes in the film. It's really cool watching this guy. He's rushing off in the rain, driving, runs off the road, and then he complains. He's like, "Oh, the bridge is down there. Oh my gosh, I gotta go do this." He's complaining about it. I'm like, dude, you put yourself in this situation, and then gets eaten by the cute little Dilophosaurus. This is the part I remember when we were watching, this freaked my sister out because I kind of knew what was going to happen because I'd read the book before, like the kids version, and then we get to that scene and they're all my mom and my sister are sitting there just like, oh, that's pretty cute. This cute little dinosaur. Then he spits and like she jumps in the car with him. They're freaking out. They're like, oh my gosh, they just ate him. It's just great filmmaking. It's a great scene. You'll never forget the first time you watch that.
No kidding, right? I want to back up to his intro because I feel like this is one of my critiques, especially this time, is you're just automatically told Nedry's an a-hole. Like, there's no setup, there's no, well, it could have gone this way. I mean, you're told, no, he's an a-hole. He's stealing dinosaurs, and he's going to take them off the island, and, he's going to sell them, basically, and make money. And that's because of some past deal with Hammond that obviously didn't go right. Because of his comment at the end of the scene where he's like, well, Hammond forgot, Hammond went short on me or something like that. So it's like, and I feel like that there was not enough set for myself to be like, okay, yeah, this guy deserved it. I mean, yes, he does something bad, but what if Hammond actually did something bad too? I mean, I know two wrongs don't make a right, but I guess that's the principle we're going with this. But either way, he does the bad things. So,
Yeah, and I guess it's better than not totally spelling out. Like, we don't need a flashback scene to, I remember that time when Hammond, he did not give me my raise, or something like that. We don't need that.
Yeah.
So, and it also, like I said, it adds to the whole Hammond aspect, like, sort of how we interpret this guy.
Look at this workstation. What a complete slug.
You didn't say the magic word.
Please! God damn it! Hate this hacker crap.
But yeah, I was getting into it a little bit earlier, but what do you think about the theme of this film? About how there are certain things that we should not tread upon. There are certain things that, as far as like science, progress, whatever, we should just kind of leave shut. Not even try to redo that. What do you think about that?
As we sit here right now, I don't know that we have too much room left for that. You know what I mean? I think we can. I don't think there's a world where dinosaurs and man can coexist. I don't think, no matter what, that's a good idea for anybody, for the dinosaurs or us. I mean, it makes for an entertaining film, and it makes for an interesting thing to think about and ponder and be like, oh, wonder what this would be like. But I think if this movie really shows you anything, is that it would probably not be a good idea. What about you?
Yeah, and I don't think this is being like a technophobe or anything. I don't think they're totally against all technology or any sort of progress.
Right.
I think what it's trying to say is, hey, if you guys discover this, if you tread light, I mean, you don't tread lightly. You basically do like Malcolm says, like you evaluate, should we do this? We got to think about this. And that's kind of what we're getting into now with a lot of the technology we're unlocking is certain ethics have to be still used. Certain morals have to be upheld, but also not something all preachy about it, but it's just like, should you do it? Should you be able to? Is this going to be beneficial for the human race in the long term if we do this? And that's kind of the thing is sometimes you don't know. You have to do experimentation. You have to get more results in. Sometimes it is a judgment call. But I think the thing is to be more calculated and be a little slower to kind of get those balls rolling when you have stuff like that. It's a big thing, and it's a cool thing that they're kind of addressing in this film. But like you said, it's not the main thing in the film. The main thing is the excitement, is the dinosaurs running around. Yeah. And to me, that's what you leave watching this movie, is that experience.
This is not based on a true story. This is not based on true events. This is as simply as a fantasy as much as a Superman movie would be. If you want to know my opinion on the thing. So if you go into it thinking, oh, this might happen with it. No, don't think that. Because that would be a really bad idea in real life. And like I said, it shows in the film it's kind of a bad idea to do it in any life, And But it is a fun watch, and it is a fun adventure to go along, and nobody really die, or even dinosaurs get hurt or anything like that. I mean, it's just a complete fantasy, and I think it holds up. Like I said at the very top of this thing, I think this movie, for all its advancements in sound and design at the time of the movie, and for it to be almost 30 years later, or actually over 30 years later, it's incredible how well this film just stands the test of time. And I think that's the big thing from this.
Yeah, and it's all the stuff we've talked about as far as the intricacies with the story, the subtext and all that.
Yeah.
It's the effects, of course, we talked about all that. But it's just, its ability to create these memorable scenes that stick with you and sort of that feeling. That T-Rex scene, oh my gosh, it's so intense.
Yeah.
You will remember that first time and how it goes into that whole next sequence of events with the tree and then chasing the Jeep. That's a thrill ride. That's great. It feels awesome. But even that, like, you watch this movie a few times and you will notice stuff differently. Mm-hmm. And for me, this is the first time I ever interpreted the T-Rex differently. I always thought he was very malicious. He always thought, he's out there to kill these people. No, he's not. Yeah. He's out there trying to learn more about this world he's in. That's the way I interpreted this time. He's looking, he's like, oh, there's some flare thing over there. I guess I'm going to chase that guy in the leather jacket down, see what he tastes like. And then he goes in and he's investigating the car. He's like, what was that weird light? I saw a weird light in there. He's looking around in there. He's just being an animal. He's just reacting. Yeah. That's what I interpret this character as this time. This T-Rex, he's not an evil dinosaur. He's just a dinosaur. Right.
He's not malicious. He's an animal, like you said, and he's reacting to things as much as any other animal or person or whatever would. And what's funny, I actually saw a behind-the-scenes thing several months ago, and it showed the T-Rex shaking like he was cold. They would actually have to stop filming and dry him off because he would get so wet that he would just start shaking like he was shivering cold. And it's just so funny to see that big old dinosaur doing that. And it's like, and you think of him almost as a living, breathing thing like that, doing that, because you're just like, cold things shiver, So it's just like I said, it's really amazing that we're 30 plus years now away from that film, and yet we're talking about it this much and praising it, because I think that we should. I think this film stands the test of time that it's been, and honestly, I think your son will be our age watching this film and being like, guys, this was amazing. At least I hope so, right? I mean, that's the hope.
I hope so. I think this is like our generation's King Kong. That movie, 1933, you can still put that on today and people still get into that T-Rex and King Kong fight. Yeah. That's what this movie was for us, and I still get that awe, that wonder when I sit down to watch this film.
There you are.
I still think it stands the test of time. As for the sequels, I don't really need that. I don't want to get on that platform, but to me, this experience of this film is great. Steven Spielberg, I got into it a little bit earlier. To me, this is his last film that's like this. Everything gets a lot heavier or not as fun after this. Does not have that same wonder he had in that part of his career. So I think in that way it's kind of sad, but at the same time, he did go on to make some pretty great films after that.
Yeah, definitely. And this is a film, like you said, that I feel like we will be watching for a long, long time, and is worth celebrating, worth praising. Sequels, we'll leave that up to you. I do think that there are some good sequels within this franchise, but I don't think anything will ever top what this one did. And, the mark that it's left on the film world in general. So, we wanted to celebrate it. It is a film that we grew up on and that we hope that generations come will too.
On the next episode... On the next episode to the SuperCaZt.
What do you guys think? Do you guys enjoy Jurassic Park as much as we did? Because we want to hear from you guys. We just really appreciate you guys being with us today as we celebrate this film. It's something we've been wanting to do for quite a while now, and we finally got to do it. And if you did enjoy it, like we said, please give us a like and a follow on our YouTube channel. And for the Steve Z, I am the SuperCaZt. We'll see you guys next time on the SuperCaZt.